Hello, hello, peoples. Um, I'm Sarah again. September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and so I decided that I would do at least one video a week that is dedicated to mental illness issues. I personally have experienced a lot of, a lot. I've had various issues, and today I think I want to talk about anxiety. Um, Growing up in the cult, we did not, we really didn't recognize illnesses in general. So mental illness, of course, was nothing that we understood, talked about, validated, nothing. So when I first left the cult, actually going to a doctor to get help for my asthma or anything really was a very novel experience. And I remember the first time I remember being told that I had anxiety, I had, I think it was in my first year of doing hair. I worked at the Mall of America at Regis salons. And the Mall of America at the time was the biggest mall in the world. It is no longer, but at the time it was. So it's a pretty, was at least, a very busy place. And this particular day was a really slow day at the mall. However, usually it would be slow if it was middle of the week and bad weather, which Minnesota, we have winter for a very long time, so there is very long stretches of unpleasant weather. And but there were always people, there were still always people, and something was always happening, even if the salon was slow. And so it wasn't a chaotic day. It wasn't, something that would amp you up and make your heart race. And but I found myself hyperventilating. My heart was beating extraordinarily fast, and I've had issues with an irregular heartbeat in the past, so I assumed that's what it was. And I was lightheaded. I called the nurse line and I explained what I was experiencing. And they at the time assumed that I was having some form of heart issue. And they recommended that I immediately get to the urgent care at Regents Hospital, which specializes in heart issues. And so I left work and I went to the ER. It was a Saturday, so the ER was my only option. And they did the EKG and they hooked me up to all this stuff. And oh, I was wearing a dress that day and having to take the whole dress off and just be in that little sheet thing, that the sheet gown that only came to like, did not cover all my bits on the lower end. I'm like, can I have like something for the bottom half? Because I'm just in panties and shorts because I don't like my thighs touching. Um, there's TMI. You didn't need to know. But I always wear bike shorts under my clothes, which I was very thankful for that. So I wasn't completely walking around in my undies. But anyways, they did all this stuff and they said, your heartbeat is fine. Everything is fine. You're not having palpitation. Like your heart rate is accelerated, but it's not, your heartbeat is regular, not irregular, which I have had that problem in the past. So that wasn't what was happening. And so when the doctor came to review the EEG and stuff with me, and he was like, all of that was okay, your heart rate's a little up and this and that, but he explained to me that I had had a panic attack. And I felt really dumb that the way my heart was racing, the way I was feeling, the way I described it, even the medical professionals were like, it sounds like your heart is having problems. And only wants to play right now. It sounds like you're having heart problems. And it wasn't, it was anxiety. That's how real anxiety can be. And I felt really dumb that I had gone to the ER over a panic attack. I was like, what? So my mind is being a little fiddly, and now here I am at the ER for nothing. Well, it wasn't nothing. And over the years, I've had panic attacks at various things. Sometimes I know why I'm having this, what is triggering it. And I've learned what things are more likely to cause an anxiety attack, like having to brake suddenly and just by a hair's breadth, you know, not getting into a car accident. Yes, that your heart will instantly, you get that feeling where it's like up in your throat and you're like, oh, that's a panic attack. I think a lot of people can relate to. But oftentimes, when you have an anxiety disorder, it could be nothing really that triggers it. Something could just set it off. And you don't always know why. And so you don't always know when to expect it and why it's happening. And I think when you don't understand what's happening to you, it makes it that much more scary. Only that's going to be so loud on the video. She's and she's got her Kong over here. If you're having anxiety, observing a dog enjoying life is just amazing. But you're so loud, baby girl. Anyways, so that was my first experience with anxiety. And over the years, I began to respect mental illness in myself and in others because I did come from a place where mental illness was not anything you talked about. It didn't exist, is where I came from. So I started to respect it. And I've had many, many panic attacks over the years. I have learned what certain things tend to set me off, what types of environments. I usually can tell if I have the onset of anxiety, and so I've learned to stay away from it. And so I have been able to temper that and not have it be quite as big a problem. However, one of the fascinating aspects of grief is that I have started to have some very extreme anxiety moments. Can you play over here? Yeah, thank you. Um, and there are things that trigger me now that did not cause a panic attack for me in the past. A very specific thing I've often had anxiety in large crowds. I'm not entirely sure why, except for some reason I feel like large crowds, everyone's gonna steal my air. Okay, now that is, I don't know why my brain thinks that. I know logically that's not the case, but just large crowds intimidate me. And I'm a pretty outgoing person, and I grew up in huge communes. So maybe it's more just a discomfort being, maybe it causes a flashback to my childhood. I'm not really sure. But you will likely not see me at the state fair. I went for the first time in 17 years back in 2019 with Jordan. And after about 3 hours, I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I just stopped in the middle of where we were walking, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it. Too many people, and I'm done. And so large crowds have always been a problem for me. So I've concerts, I've gone to not even a handful, like 2, 3, and I prefer to be outside on the crowd. I don't like, I try to ignore that there's people all around me because it makes me anxious. But now I have found myself, since losing Jordan, very anxious and doing some pretty mundane things. Now, in a lot of ways, because my depression has increased so dramatically since losing Jordan, there's a lot of things that used to make me anxious. I used to be quite the worrywart and would create these whole ideas of what is happening and would cause, an anxiety or panic attacks would occur. However, because my depression is so intense, my anxiety in a lot of ways has been tempered. My doctor asked me this question: do you worry about losing people close to you? Do you worry about that? And I was like, no. And he seemed a little surprised. And I said, well, at this point, I don't worry about it. I expect it's going to happen. So my depression is something I will talk about also, but it has caused my anxiety on things that used to cause me anxiety. Oh my God, cause anxiety. I just keep repeating that. It's very redundant. How dare I? But things that used to cause a panic or anxiety attack no longer do. However, new things that were not really a problem in the past, like going to a grocery store, now is a big cause for panic attacks. And anyone very close to me knows that I now order everything online, just about. There's very few things that I cannot get online. So I have my groceries delivered. I can go into a store if I want to stop and get a bottle of alcohol. Like we like Ciroc in this house, and I can pop in, grab one thing, and pop out. And I can manage that. I even have trouble just going to work, and I prefer when I'm at work when it's just me and my clients, and I don't have to worry about any other people. It's not that I dislike the people I work with, and it's just it becomes overwhelming the more people are that are in my space. And so going to Target to pick up this, that, and the other becomes very overwhelming. I become very forgetful. I might be able to maintain my composure while in the store, but I get increasingly anxious. If I go any place that has a decent amount of people, I prefer to have someone with me that I know. I don't need to be right by their side, but so long as I know that someone familiar is nearby, it does seem to help. But even still, like, oh, a few months back, um, one of the gals from our widow group, she lives locally, and she wanted some company to the grocery store for her own reasons. And so we went together, and that was easier. And I was okay while we were in the store because I had her company. However, on my drive home, once I was alone, just the buildup of everything, just being in the store, I still had a manageable panic attack on my way home. Luckily, I was just about to exit the highway, and I was able to pull over for a little minute and compose myself before continuing my drive home. I've had some fairly paralyzing panic attacks, um, just over a variety of things, and they can be very debilitating. And so yeah, it has become an increasing problem for me since losing Jordan. Um, the big reason I think that I have trouble with being, specifically with like grocery shopping or going to stores, is for the entirety of the time we were together. Jordan didn't drive. He had his permit, and was he was pretty good. Mostly on highway driving, he did very well, but I gotta talk about his driving on another video. He would stop at a stop sign, either like 2 car lengths before the stop sign, or like half of the front would be in the middle of the road. And I'm like, you need to stop at the stop sign. But that's so he was learning, he was doing well and improving. But his permit had lapsed, so in his last like 6 months, he didn't do a lot of practice. But anyways, I he would often pick up groceries, and whenever he would, I didn't want him to be carrying all these groceries home on the bus. I would pick him up. So anytime there was groceries or shopping that had been done either by him, or if I was going to go do it, um, I would plan to pick up groceries and get him with the groceries. So I would oftentimes go to Target about 20 minutes before his shift was over, do my shopping, and then check out, and he and I would go home together. So going out and doing any form of shopping, usually we would do it together, or when he would do it, I would pick him up afterwards, or when I would do it, I would time it around when he was getting off of work. So it always resulted in him coming home with. And so I think that is a very contributing factor to why it has become so problematic for me. And while it possibly is something I will get past, at this stage in my healing, it is not something I want to put myself through, so it continues to be problematic. And I don't want to push myself further than I'm capable of going at this time. So I'm not sure what the whole point of talking about my personal experience with anxiety is, other than hopefully, if you're someone who thinks that people are making stuff up or they're being dramatic, maybe you might understand there is actual medical things. Your brain can malfunction just like your eyes can, and you need glasses, just like your breathing can, and you need an inhaler, just like you You could break a bone and need a splint or a cast. I don't think they do casts anymore. But there's a lot of medical things that people acknowledge are perfectly reasonable. But yet, when it comes to the brain malfunctioning, a lot of people tend to be skeptical about it. And I find that odd. Even though that's the environment I grew up in, I do find it odd that we think that the rest of the body could malfunction and have problems that require treatment, but yet the brain somehow is just so perfect it can't cause any problems. And when people live with different mental illness problems, to have that be discounted and have people be told, and by people, I'm speaking so generally, but to be told that you're just being dramatic, or it's not really something that should be a problem. Your heart racing, your hands shaking, the world going blurry in front of you, you're just being dramatic. That really does discount the actual real feelings. When I called and described my symptoms the first time, the doctors and nurses thought I was having a heart attack. That was the description. And while I can be very creative in my speech, when I'm actually having trouble breathing and my heart is literally racing, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm trying to describe exactly what's happening so I can get help so that stops happening. I really do try not to exaggerate things. I really do try to, I even downplay things all the time. I've been known when I call the doctors and they're like, you need to come in now. And I usually am like, can't I? My cure all is a glass of water and rest. I'm always asking them, you sure I can't just drink some water and take a nap and feel better? They're like, no, you need to come in because something very serious could be going on. And I'm like, you sure water and a nap won't cure this? And I've said that so many times over the years. That's my cure all for everything. A glass of water and a nap. It does do wonders, but it doesn't always fix what you're dealing with. And sometimes, there's doctors out there, and I know I've mentioned this in my origin story. It, it is wonderful to have, if there's something you do that helps relax you and helps calm you, such as prayer or a glass of water and a nap, that's great. But sometimes you actually might benefit from seeking professional help. And there are doctors here for a reason. And while every doctor is not perfect, they can have some very valid insight into what you're experiencing. And so I have found that my anxiety is a lot better managed because I do have medical advice, and at this point, avoidance is my best route. I do have a medication to help if I'm having a sudden panic attack. And there are a lot of tips and tricks to help. I remember watching, I think it was like the Today Show or something years and years ago, where they had a medical professional on that was saying doing something just as simple as going through your purse or sorting through your bedside table or something like that. It's very mundane, but there's something calming about touching and interacting with familiar items, because anxiety often is when you're overwhelmed by too much stimulation. I might be misspeaking, but something is overwhelming you. And so it can be very calming to go through something that's familiar to you. And yes, I know I say familiar weird. We're going to ignore that. But going through, like, I have a little purse. It's an adorable purse by a local artist with a bunch of multicolored cats. And I might go through it and I have a lip gloss. I have my inhaler. I have a hair tie. I have a pen. Ladies, settle down. Settle down. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, you too. Lady thinks she's some tough shit, and she is going to teach only that she does not like to play. Are you done? Why are you so mean? We're going to settle down. Hi, only. Do you like playing with Lady? And she doesn't like playing with you. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. I do have to show. I have this amazing knife. It's so pretty. Look at that. Yeah. It's beautiful. This is totally sidetracked. distracted, unnecessary. But going through my purse of things that are familiar and things that make me smile and, just random little things. And can we not play with my blanket? Do you want the blanket on you? Oh my goodness. These two can be so distracting. Are you a little chilly? You want a blanket? There you go. Anyways, now I'm all sidetracked and forgot everything I was talking about. Anxiety. Yeah, the going through a drawer with things that are familiar to you, sorting through something. For women, I know we typically will have a purse or a bag. Men will often have some, go through your pockets maybe. But that's a good way for you to kind of calm yourself, distract yourself, maybe play a song that makes you feel content. I don't know. Those are just some tips that have helped me over the years. So, that could be helpful in the moment. But of course, if you're having a really severe panic attack, it's good to let your doctor know and be aware of it. And now my whole train of thought has just kind of gone, and these girls seem like they might need a little runaround, especially Miss Only, who has so much energy. So, anyways, I guess that's the video, and I'm now getting distracted with my dogs. They also do really help me calm down, and I am considering working on training Miss Only. She is quite a good listener for the most part. Not perfect yet, but I am considering training her to be my medical support dog. So maybe I won't be quite as restricted with where I go. And she does seem pretty aware of when I'm getting anxious. It doesn't happen a lot when I'm at home because I am in a very familiar environment. So I don't tend to have a whole lot of anxiety issues. But as I, as she becomes increasingly in tune with me and my moods, I do think that she could give me a heads up on when I have hit my capacity and I'm about to spiral. And maybe she would give me that heads up that it's time for me to exit a situation. And it would also make it much easier for me to, can we not chew on my ring? For me to interact in the world without being so reliant on a friend or family member to be available to me so I can go somewhere. Because it does become very restricting and the world becomes a heck of a lot smaller than it really should be. So, anyways, that's as much of a nutshell as I ever am. And that's a little insight into anxiety, which is something that I've dealt with in my life. Hopefully, maybe some people will take some time to do a little research and maybe be a little understanding to people who are living with a variety of mental illnesses that are a lot more severe than mine. There are so many more, but here I mostly try to stay on topic just of things that I've personally experienced and lived. So, blah, blah, blah. Subscribe, click bells and comments. If you have your own personal experiences, I would love to hear about it and tips and tricks that help you. That would be wonderful. And I don't know, do the YouTube thingies and algorithms, blah, 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 etc. Yeah, I suck at this part. I should organize something for this. I keep saying this. Anyways, I will bid you adieu, say ciao, and until next time, enjoy your Labor Day. Ciao.